What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that, and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Hey, what's good? KSC once again. I am Kinell. This is Kinell Sinister Cinema. You know what it is. Say it every week, but doesn't bear repeating enough times. Now, I get a lot of mad guests on here, and the default is that they're all people that I think are pretty fucking cool in some way. It's not the most efficient of systems, but it works for me. Anyway, on this particular occasion, obviously, I've said a lot of harsh things about superhero films in the past, so we got to have some balance. So today's guest is Batman. Batman LDN, of course, because I don't fuck with no American Batmans. What's good?
I'm cool, man. I'm cool. How you doing?
Hey, all good here. All good here. So Batman LDN AKA Olzord. I've sort of known you from Twitter for it must be going on over a decade at some point because you first sort of appeared on Twitter with the Batman LDN parody account thing
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember that was when you were going by Kolak then.
Yeah,
I believe, and it was it's been a funny old journey. I don't know. I've become many things since then, but it started off just essentially like a sort of local Gus the Fox or something like that, and then it's just sort of metamorphed into all sorts. But one thing I've got to say though, I think you're the first person that's ever said Olzord right first time. Most people see it and say Olzord, but you've read what you've seen, so well done.
Yeah, I think I might have heard it on a track or something on SoundCloud back in the day. Like I said, I've been following from a long time. You know, I remember the track Catwoman's Minge.
Oh yeah, example. that was a heartfelt ballad. So that was beautiful.
Yeah. It was a scream tune, wasn't it?
It was. I can't remember what one it was, but it was a sort of more of a dubby tune than dubstep, and that was it's funny because that was when I realized that inadvertently I was quite good at writing funny books, and so the amount of people that would come up to me afterwards would just be like, I really 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 love Catwoman's Minge, and just such a stupid song, but one of my proudest moments.
Yeah, excellent scenes. It's funny. It's a lot of times people use the term it wouldn't get made today, and normally they're just ducking. Basically they say a load of things that which probably shouldn't have been acceptable at the time. But there's a lot of times when it actually does apply something like the original Batman LDN tweets. They wouldn't get made any other time because it was that moment. I think it was we were just coming off the back of like dubstep had just really started to fucking do something out of nowhere, like catch it, like we're after the Casper and Rusko thing coming out, Diary of an Afro Warrior dropped, and all that, and it was this really, really strange time when like London-centric bass music was getting this crazy sort of international fucking notice.
Yeah, it was. You know what? It's funny because it's quite interesting because, you know, I mentioned to you just before we started that I've been watching that Channel 2 documentary, and so grime existed where it was because of just all of these conditions that just so happened to be at that time. And it's quite similar really with the whole Batman LDN thing, because I'd actually, like, Twitter was new as well, or quite new. And so anyone, it was like a bit of a cool kids club then. Like anyone that was in on it was really into it. And like, I don't know, people just became, it's weird to talk about Twitter like that now, because then firstly, there was no algorithm. It was just timeline. So I used to just spam the shit out of it. And like most of it wouldn't even get any likes, but a lot of people would notice it. And the only reason it got big, talking about like, you know, particular circumstances, is because I'd had 2-stage surgery on my spine like a few months before I started the account. And so I was just at home bored. And I remember I was watching some shitty like ITV drama. And I just thought, imagine if there was like this guy and he lived in London and he genuinely thought he was Batman, but he was actually just some rude boy idiot. And that was just where it came from. So I just started this Twitter account. And the only reason it blew up is because of one person, like out of the blue, for some reason, Rusko followed me. You mentioned Casper and Rusko. He was like the first famous person to follow me. And that was he was like my third follower. And he like retweeted a few things. And it just fucking, it's weird because to say it blew up by nowadays standards, you'd expect it to be like, you know, hundreds of thousands or something like that. It wasn't like that. It was really weird. It was like a lot of people knew about it, but then it didn't hit the mainstream or anything like that. But anyone that remembers knows, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, it wasn't so much viral. It was more like flipping, like the people who were into it were like, yeah, there's a new Batman LDN tweet, and it'd be something about like flipping Alfred like being on crack or something.
Yeah,
and like they're all written in that kind of like the way that only like Scratcher DVA like tweets now, like, and and flipping it. It was just something exactly that moment, like, and I always did associate it with like around the time of like the Casper and Rusko flipping Fabric Live mix, because that was like it was a really sort of sudden and seismic shift.
Yeah,
like
and it was just a really, it's funny because I don't know, it feels like whilst we've come so far, but it's like all of a sudden normality is like, you know, we've had YouTube for fucking ages now. We've had Twitter for ages now. Yeah, there's TikTok, but then even Snapchat's like old and Instagram's like old if you think about it. Like it's not this new thing anymore. We've had all these things for like at least a decade. So, but when all of these things were emerging, where algorithms haven't been developed for like any of them, and people were just having fun. Like people were less insecure then, I think. I think people were just in it for a laugh, and it was far less. I mean, you still had your toxicity, but it was far less toxic. Like Twitter now is an arguing app, really. And that's partially because, you know, I mean, I watched this documentary film on Netflix, and it was just basically breaking down social media algorithms. And, you know, the idea is if you get riled up, you spend more time on it and you furiously tweet and stuff. And so everyone on it's angry now. But then it was just, I don't know, it was like, it's weird looking back on it. It was like this sort of summer of love almost on like online on social media. Like it was just this pocket of time when it was actually pretty good. And but yeah, now
this is it. Like it's It's like the algorithms, they do prey on that kind of negativity. And like people forget there was a time on social media where people weren't on there constantly looking for fights and searching things to get angry about.
Yeah, there was just, there was just a lot of us having a laugh and just sort of like overwhelmed by all of these new tools. And I think that a part of that also, though, with our because I'm assuming you're probably around about my age. I'm mid-30s, and
A bit older, but not
yeah.
mentally.
So because of when we were coming up, we're old enough to remember our childhoods didn't have like the internet or anything like that. But then at the same time, as we were like coming of age, the internet was about. So we had all of this curiosity because it was all of these new things. But my children, they just take it all for granted because it's all just there. So it's like they don't have that same enthusiasm for like, oh my God, you can do this now. You can do this. You can do this. Isn't that amazing? It's just like, yeah, but that's just normal. You can do anything. And they're just so, I don't know, like we had a lot of us anyway, had this sort of like wide-eyed fascination, I suppose, like wandering through that landscape. Like everything was new and everything was exciting. And I know that with hindsight, I know certainly I am kicking myself for not doing things in a certain way because I perhaps have a bit more money. But it's what it is, isn't it? Like at the end of the day, my whole approach to everything I've ever done has been have a laugh, like focus on that. Like if I wanted money, I wouldn't have got into animating for one thing, because that's long.
Well, what do you call it? That's a nice little segue because obviously I've been following you for a while, and you've got a lot of other creative outlets, like with the music and the animating, particularly. Like, we'll talk about that early. Let's get people in that direction. Where can people find your animation for a start off?
So if you go on my Instagram, I suppose the easiest way to navigate would be to there. So it's at Batman_LDN. And there's like in my sort of like, bio thing, there's a link tree, and then it's just got everything on there. It's easier than remembering a URL anyway. But and the thing is, I'm pretty rubbish with it. Like I've got quite a bit of stuff on my YouTube. Like so my latest project that I've been sort of like bubbling over, Empty Heads, which I'm pretty sure that I sent to you and you retweeted. But it's just like, so you talk about, bits of animation, bits of music. It's with me, I've always just been like, if I've been fascinated by something, if I think something's cool, I want to give it a go. And it all started for me musically. So it was like when I was about 14, when I got into grime, because I was really lucky, talking about being in a certain place at a certain time, because I grew up in Watford. A lot of grime raves weren't allowed to be put on in London, so they used to go to the surrounding boroughs, and Watford was one of the places that they'd go. So in the early day, like a lot of the Eskimo dances, like the early ones, used to happen in Watford. And so I was like, sort of like, this was just out of reach for me. But the key thing was that these were people that were doing it in a British accent and stuff, and they were just normal people. Like they weren't celebrities, they weren't rich and famous or anything. And so I wanted to get into it with that. And then ever since then, that I got that sort of empowerment, and I was just like, nothing felt out of reach anymore. Like I just wanted to sort of edge out and give something else a go. And so that's probably why I've not been able to like make myself become a big name or anything like that, because anytime I get a bit of momentum on one thing, I just like, but I want to do that now. So I just go and do it. So, I mean, in those early days when I was a grime MC, we had a little scene in Watford, one of the members of which was Anthony Joshua. I'll have you know. He was an MC back in the day. So I managed to get on like one compilation that was in HMV, which was massive for me at the time. It was like, and off the back of that, you know, I could have started getting booked to raves and stuff like that. But then I wanted to try out making beats.
Yeah.
So I stopped MCing for a bit and I was trying making beats. And then, you know, it's just over time, I've always drawn, but then over time it just sort of just stumbles into the next thing. And then all of a sudden I am where I am now, and I'm able to do all sorts by myself. And now I'm thinking, right, I'm actually going to do stuff now.
Yeah. That's it, and it like it's like a lot of the people like who end up becoming really successful independently. It's not so much that they've got that flipping creative, that creative ability. They've also got the ability to like switch the creative urges off and do the business side of things, innit?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what I'm not very good at. Like I did try, like I was a number of years back, I worked in advertising at Sky. And, you know, I was working in London, so I had like no time. And I just thought, I need to do one of two things. I thought I either need to get just like a sort of admin job that doesn't have too much stress, and then I'll have more time and it's closer to home, or I can just get a massive loan out and hope for the best.
Yes.
I got the massive loan out. It was a terrible idea, but it was like, I just quit. And then, yeah, I was just sort of working at that for a while, and I just wasn't, I should have been doing so much more, but I was just so confident in this idea that I hadn't shown to anyone. And I was just sure it was going to be a hit, but it was kind of like my student film at the same time. And it was really ill-advised, and I was paying for it for years. I've only just recently got it cleared. And, yeah, it's just like, to come back to what I was saying, like I've always just wanted to try things out, and I knew that because I wasn't good at business, I need to just be very strict on the drive for creativity and for enjoying myself, because every time, like when I've done freelance videography, because I used to like film stuff. I worked with a theatre company and I did live visuals for a Grime musical, which was really cool. But the thing is, I'd go into it and I keep on doing more and more things, and I'd just be like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. And I think that there's a lot of people that can work fine as a sort of freelancer, and they accept themselves that they are essentially a tool, an extension of the vision that they've been hired to see through. But I've got too much of an ego for that. I can't do that. Like, the thing is, I'm doing it for someone for so long, and I'm just like, yeah, but you know, I'm just doing your kind of shit idea, and I'd rather do my really good but probably not viable idea. Like, I don't know, it's just
I definitely hear that, man. I definitely hear that. There's been a million times where I've had the opportunity to like sort of look at something that I could work into something that's more successful or visible, or just doing the thing I love, despite how ill-advised it is, or the fact that I don't know how to do it properly. Flipping, I know exactly what you mean there. Like,
and the thing is, I think that is, I think we're all, because again of the sort of the age that we are and the sort of cultures that we're into, we're essentially extensions of a hip hop generation, and hip hop taught us what you can do with, like, even if you don't have much. And then, so with that mentality instilled, we've then all of a sudden got the internet and technology, and so we don't have limited resources. We have so many resources, and so I think that we are uniquely blessed with gratitude for that, or at least I am anyway. And I just think, you know, now I've got, like, for example, this app called Koala that is just as good as an MPC, and I use that on my iPad, and I make fucking sick tunes on it, and I'm like, this is mad. Like, this is so mad. I don't know, and because I'm into like my hip hop history and stuff, I recently read Dilla Time about Jay Dilla.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check that.
It's really good. And the thing is, so the way that he went before he had any proper equipment, the way that he manipulated pitch and speed was opening up a tape deck and screwing so that he could change the speed of it, so he could then record it in the second deck and resample it and stuff. We don't have to do none of that. We just highlight it. Like,
it's fascinating, some of these old school ways, like.
Yeah, and so I just think, because of, you know, a lot of the people then would just, like, one of the key sort of phrases that people tend to reuse is, ain't no rules to this shit. And there shouldn't ever be, like, fuck rules. Like, it's just have fun. If you think it sounds good, who cares if certain channels are going into the red a bit? Like, who cares if it doesn't meet the internet's version of what a good mix is? Fuck it. Like, just have a laugh. Like, so yeah, that's me through and through, and that's what keeps me going, really.
We've got tools that, like, take a lot of the technical side out of it, and all, like, fucking, like I finally got round to getting the full version of, like, Isotope Nectar. Like, do you fuck with that at all?
No, what's that?
It's like for like vocal processing, but
right?
Like
okay.
You can get the mix on your vocals somewhere near by just pressing vocal assistant and, like, picking the type of vocal you want it to sound like, and then run it, and then a million AI algorithms will put 2 EQs on it, a compressor, de-esser, and all this, and it does a lot of the technical side of it that takes a long time to even learn how to do properly.
That's mad. I didn't even know that existed. You know, I with any of my mixes, it's funny. I've mixed in the exact same way since, I think, about 2012. So well over 10 years. I just, you know, you're aware of, you know about waves?
Yeah.
I just
use what's called. I think Blizzard's big on wave plugins.
Yeah, I just use CLA. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's always worked for me, and I've used it in so many different ways across all of the CLA plugins that I can just sort of, you know, you get to a point where you can sort of hear it before you do it. So I just think, I'll do this, and then I'll do that, and then it will sound like that, and then it does. So it makes for, as far as recordings go, I'm not too experimental, really. I just
if you got something that works, like, then you never really need to upgrade from it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, as the mic that I've got, by most sound engineer standards, isn't really the best mic for vocals, but I like the sounds that I get out of it.
Yeah.
And I like the end product that I make with it. And also I use it for vocals as well, for, like, animation things and stuff. It's a versatile mic. And I've got one of them box things that you told me about.
Flipping one of these.
Yeah, mate, that is just such a game changer. It is mad. Like, I used to use a duvet. Like, ages ago. Like, now you don't need none of that. It's sick.
It's wild. Like, for the audio viewers, I'm holding up Studio Spares ISO Cube, which is a knockoff of something called the Chaotic Eyeball, and I don't think it'll make much difference, but I can whack it on there. And, like, it's basically a big, huge, like, chamber of foam with a pop shield on it that you whack over your condenser mic. And if you're rapping into the pop shield, it muffles, like, the background noise as good as a vocal booth. And I just think, why did it take so long for that to be invented?
Because, like, before, do you remember you could get that one that was sort of metal and it had the padding on it, and it would just like sort of go around it, and it was so massive, and they cost a good few £100. And I always liked the idea of it, but you know, I'm not a child with a silver spoon born in my mouth, so I've not been able to afford, like, all of the many accessories. I've always got away with a shoestring. But and the fact is, it's only 30 quid as well, or something like that. Like, it's mental.
I remember someone telling me that they saw, like, a similar kind of, like, vocal thing years ago, and you had to stick your whole head in it. It's just a piece of foam that goes over the, because it sort of started with the Chaotic Eyeball, and that they all could, like, the Chaotic Eyeball was, like, you know, one of these foam things with a pop shield that was, like, fucking, it was around for, like, ages as a gimmick, but no one ever even fucking heard of them until fucking a couple of weeks into COVID when they couldn't open the studios. And then suddenly everyone had them, and they fucking cost about £100, and fucking everyone was getting them because suddenly like people had to be able to record clean vocals at home, and just a bit of foam that goes over the fucking microphone was available. And then almost instantly, other companies like Studio Spares, who I got mine one from, go, you cannot patent a big bit of fucking foam. We're going to do our one for £30. I'm fucking like, but by like the 6th week of COVID, you could like record studio like clean vocals like in your house.
And this is what, because one thing that I've been thinking about a lot recently, now that it's a few years ago, just how mad COVID was. Like it was weird. Like it was so weird. Like so many aspects of it, especially that first bit when it proper felt like you were in a film. Like you were in, it was just, everything was weird. Like everyone had all this speculation about where it would be. Everyone thought that the army were going to be defending borders of counties. And
they were like fucking, they were like posting like on Facebook, they were posting like the army are going to lock us down tonight. And they were posting a picture of like some cadets walking through town.
And there was everyone like knew of someone who had a relative in the army, and they were being told to get ready. And it was just it was mad. But the thing is, as much as it was like
and there were some serious lies about the fucking border stuff. Because the thing is, like fucking, I live in Chester. I'm like about 3 miles from the border, and fucking me family are on the other side in Wrexham. Fucking me and my dad were going across the border constantly, visiting each other throughout the whole of COVID, from like the start of fucking lockdown. Did not see one police car once. And like that, like there was a point because like just down the road is like Saltney, fucking like which is like an area of Chester, but there's one road in it that it's like like the Welsh border splits Saltney in half, and like there was a point when there was like a lot of points during COVID when there were different rules for when there was different laws applying to which end of the road you lived on.
It's mental, isn't it? Like it was so weird. But like for all of its weirdness, for all of its strangeness, sorry, we've got a guest here on the pod.
Yes.
For all of its weirdness, talking about how well like those companies did coming up with the foam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that for a lot of us, it gave us a lot of opportunity that was seized. I think lots of people seized it. Yeah, a lot of people were coming up with very sort of same boring, like uninspired, like content writing wise, like based on, just sort of there was lots of COVID films that just appeared out of nowhere, and but there was also like some really interesting stuff. Like I don't know if you saw did you see that Bo Burnham film Inside?
Yeah, I did.
Now the thing is, as much as I think that his songwriting style is quite cheesy, I think that thing was a masterpiece, man. Like it was just the way that it was like just so the fact that he did everything and it was so well lit and stuff like that. It just, and that film, had there not have been like this weird lockdown thing, that film wouldn't have been made. Like it just wouldn't have existed. So for all of the shit, there is some. They say that pressure creates diamonds, and like limitations like allow for the most creativity. And I think, for me personally, I'd been working for a lot of people, like I was saying, and I was getting a bit fed up. So I just said, nah, I was done with it. I wasn't going to do it anymore. But I was pretty lazy. Like I spent the first bit of lockdown just like writing like some weird poetry stuff. Like I was just exercising one part of my brain.
Keep the pen moving.
I'm always doing something, but I wasn't putting anything online really. I was just trying some stuff out, and like you know, just kind of behind the scenes doing stuff and not really broadcasting. And the truth is, like, I was quite bitter because I'd done all of these things for all of these people, and I felt like I'd wasted a lot of time. I was just like, shit, like I can do so much. And I mean, how many people are there that can like rap, that can make beats, that can animate, that can draw, that can write comedy, that can, you know, use a camera that like well, and like and also I did flyer design, I do graphic design. Like there's so much stuff that I could do, and I was just like, but no one fucking knows. And I was just quite bitter. I just thought I'll just chill, like fuck it, whatever. But then I nearly had, well, I basically nearly died. Like I had some pretty bad car crash. Lorry went right into the back of me, right off my car, while I was in it on the M1. And that combined with COVID just made me think, nah, man, like just do stuff, have a laugh, like, but now is the time. Like you can't. I realized that no matter how much you learn, you can't just sit there and having learned it is achievement in enough. You got to show people. It's more than, I think, if you're that way inclined, if you're someone that likes to express yourself artistically, then I think that you owe it to yourself to continually express yourself how you please and how you feel comfortable, because you feel so good every time afterwards. And so it's like, you know, it's improved my mental health to no ends, like just constantly like just putting stuff out there like that. And you know, you put in enough hours, you know. I've been at it for like 20 years now, and you've mastered things, so you get even greater satisfaction about finishing projects, because you're just like, I'm the fucking shit, man. Like I can do stuff, and that is better than any amount of likes, any amount of views, or anything. It's just I put it out there for me, so I've got my gallery just there, and it's just like, yeah, that's what I'm doing, safe. And it's cool. At one point I did want to break into actually proper like doing film, but I don't think I wanted to be a film director at one point, but
it's so much logistics with that shit. Like, I mean, like, fucking, even if you are the big kingpin fucking director at the top, making the decisions and calling the shots, it's involving so many other people in your vision, like, and flipping, like, you've got to like know their capabilities to work within them and all this, like, and like you've got to do all that whilst spearheading your vision, and ideally not being a dick, so that people want to work for you. And there's like about 7 parts of that fucking description that I could never do.
Yeah, and it's just like, I had to be real with myself. For a long time I wanted to, but one thing that I used to love, I don't really do it as much anymore, but as we've spoken about before, you know, I'm into, like, where I can buying Blu-rays. I don't buy as many as you, but I like owning a physical thing of something that I really like, because I think there's a lot less of that now. But another reason that I used to like doing it, even if I couldn't get the Blu-ray, I get the DVD, because I check the special features. Because I used to watch every single behind the scenes, because they'd have like 2-hour documentaries about like sick films, and you know, you wouldn't be able to find them online, but you'd find them on like the special features for all these DVDs. So I've literally like, I've seen so many of them, and that was like my sort of like film school. I was like trying to learn from them, and then over time I just thought, they all look pretty stressed though, don't they? And
that's it. Like so, some of the like greatest movies come from the most what should we call it, like stressful situations and all. Like,
yeah, and I don't know. Like, I'll never say never, but yeah, I don't know. Like, it looks well stressful. Like, I mean,
I think I'd like to what should we call it, like, knock about a set for a bit, like, and do something. Like, I just want to see it working. Like,
yeah, and the thing is, that's why I like the place that I'm in, because whilst I wasn't able to satisfy that sort of grandiose itch, I am essentially a director of a team, in that team is me, because I can, when I'm doing like animated things, one thing that you may have clocked, but it's always my voice. I can rap. One of the useless skills I have, or useful in this case, is I can rap in different accents and different voices and stuff. And so, and I was always good at impressions, even from like a young age. So like, I knew that I had that in my skill set. So you combine all these things, and it's just like, well, okay, maybe I'm not that great with working with people all the time, but if I can be my own team, then that character flaw isn't an issue. So,
and that's it. If fucking like, that goes back to hip hop, innit? Like, it's fucking Jay Dilla slowing down the tapes. It's like, okay, like fucking nothing exists that can make this happen, but maybe there's something within me that I can make it happen, and I know I can do this, 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 and this. So if I put all this together, then fucking I can use all these aspects to like create something that's ultimately one vision without telling anyone to piss off.
Yeah, exactly. Because I tell you what, mate, I mean, I went through, you'll probably again remember that I went through that short phase of not only was I working for other people in a like cameraman aspect, I was doing animated music videos as well for a short while. And the reason I had to knock that on the head is because you spend so long on it, especially if you've got a full-time job, like on top of that, like it takes so long to make these things. Because firstly, every single image that you see has to be drawn. And like, you know, if there's complex movement,
keep going.
No worries. If you've got complex movement, that's a lot of drawing to do. And people like had these small budgets and really big ideas of what they want, and they didn't like being told no for an answer either. And so I'd always be quite real with people, but at the same time, you know, sometimes a big name would come along and you want to sort of compromise yourself here and there, just because like you can attach yourself to them. But it's like, there were certain times, I won't say, because I mean, you know, some of the projects ended up falling flat on their face because I'd lose my shit. The thing is, like, I remember there was this one person, and I'll say it's a known artist, but I won't say who it is. But I've put something.
Give us a genre.
No, I'm too. It's D&B. So, but I mean, we didn't end up doing anything, so you wouldn't be able to look through my CV to work it out. But basically, I did a test for them. Like, you know, because they'd said what they wanted, and I said, right, okay, well, maybe I could do this. And so I put a little example together for them, and I showed them. And they said they weren't sure about the clips I used in it, right? And I was like, okay. I went, well, because you've not given me the kind of budget that I would need for this, I am limited to 3 libraries. And so here's the link. This is my selection. Pick what you want. They picked all the same ones that they had said they didn't want in there, that I'd picked that were wrong. They picked those same ones. And I just went fucking mental. I said all sorts of things I shouldn't have said. And sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
You could swear, man. I'm never getting monetized.
All right. But yeah. So because of, you know, little things like that, I just learned that I'm not that. I can work well with some people, but I think that like my dream for a long while has been to get into a position where I can just get along comfortably doing my thing. And if it gets seen by one person, that's great. But I'm doing it for me because I enjoy the process. I don't want to get like bogged down by all of the big pressures of that you can have with, say, when you're a film director, you're like, you know, you've got investors, like it's big fucking business. Like even if you're making an independent film, like to me, an independent film that's cheap, but 100 grand, what? Like like the thing is with it, I've got no budget. My budget is just my hands and my brain and my time, and there's no stress there. And so that's why Empty Heads has taken nearly a year to do episode 2 because I'm doing it at my own pace. Like I'm not going to kill myself for anything because life's too short. Like you want your legacy out there, but you got to have fun as well because otherwise it's just pointless. Like there's no point in like living a life of misery so you can just go, well, you're
I hear
like,
that, man. I hear that. And like when you're working as well while you're doing it, it's like to your point about doing commissions and things for other people. It's like I find like you've only got so much creative brain energy per day. So if you've got to use it on some actual work, there's kind of like nothing left for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I made this one video that I am so proud of. It's for a friend of mine that I went to school with and college with. He's called Soundtrack, but like SNDTRKK. And
cool.
I spent like a year on this video, and it's basically I wanted to go from different mediums. So it starts off like hand drawn with pencil, and then it goes into hand drawn with crayon, then it goes into felt tip, and then it goes into acrylics. And it took me so long to do, and I all of these assets I hand did. Like I made so much stuff for it, and at the end I was so proud. And it's like something that I hold up and I just look at, and I'm so gassed that I was able to make that. Like it's insane to me that I did it all by myself without any help. But that was a massive period of inactivity for me, visibility wise, like because I didn't have any more of me to give. I had a day job, and I'm a dad. I'm an adult. Like it's not like I was in my late teens and early 20s. Like you don't have all the time in the world, which is mad, because when you do have all the time in the world, you fucking take it for granted and you do nothing. So I think it's very important whenever you're taking anything on is just think about sustainability, because you don't want to burn yourself out, because then if you do, you can't do nothing for like potentially a month or something like that. That's happened to me. Like I've just
flipping like that. That's something like and like when you don't do anything for a bit, you start getting the doubts, as my creative shit, my creative side of my brain just stopped working completely. Like,
you
don't
really
do it because you're almost scared to do it in case it's shit.
You lose your confidence, you get really self-conscious and stuff. And so I think, and also one thing that's also really interesting about that documentary I was watching earlier, it was these artists talking, right? And they at the time they weren't rich, they weren't making money from music, they definitely weren't in the early noughties, but they were paying for videos then thousands of pounds.
Like fucking some of those Channel U videos that like you'd use like a fucking retro filter on your phone to like make something of the same quality now, like, but like they were dropping like fucking like 50 bags on a video, like.
Exactly. And the thing is, so that is what independent up and coming artists understood that they would have to pay. But now, because certain aspects have become more accessible, where everyone's got a camera now, everyone's got a camera on their phone or whatever, and they've also seen, lots, because of SBTV and Link Up TV and stuff, a music video isn't a crazy thing anymore. It's quite, it's quite a casual thing to drop, kind of thing. It's not a groundbreaking thing like it used to be. And so when people are coming into it, they think that they deserve that for like no money. And so if you come in, if like you come in naively like I did, I thought the reason I took all that money out, aside from doing my short film, was I was like, I can do music videos for people, sick, I'll make money that way. But then I got into it, and like no one wanted to pay for your time. And it's just like,
that's it. People don't want to pay for like the sort of creative aspect, like, because like back then, like flipping like things like good cameras and shit weren't fucking obtainable, like, and like now people think like because the equipment's available, like fucking, what am I paying for? I've got a mate who's got the same camera, that kind of thing. But
exactly.
that the equipment is not what you're paying for.
Exactly, you're paying for like all of the time I've put in to learn this thing, and it's like, so you know, I spent all this time learning animation, thinking, yeah, this is going to be a sick life, this is going to be great, and then, you know, I'd say like every time I'd just be like, all right, okay, look, I can do it for this, and they'd be like, oh, what about for like half that? But I've got cash that I can give you right now, and it's just like, yeah, but that's lower than minimum wage because of the amount of time that I have to put into it. And you wouldn't like offer, like ask a plumber to work for exposure. So why should I? Like, I should be paid now. Like, I've got bills to pay now. And so yeah, it's unfortunately that was sort of what deaded that whole thing. And I just thought, I just can't go freelance, because the mad thing is, if you do get past that ceiling, then the budgets in mainstream are they're just throwing money away.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy the amount of money they spend on like think how much that Stormzy video with Louis Theroux and shit in it would have cost. Like, that was, I mean, the production was insane.
And like Louis Theroux doesn't need to be in your fucking rap video. Like, he's only there so you can say, like, I can afford Louis Theroux.
Yes, exactly.
It's like fucking like Tech Nine putting The Rock on a fucking track. You don't think The Rock's got bars? Like, you just want to flex the fact that you have money to pay The Rock.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but it just, unfortunately, I feel really bad for people coming up now, because it's just so chaotic. Like, it was such a narrow lane before, like when, you know, before YouTube was about and stuff, it was just sort of like more community based and stuff, anything like, you know, you could pop off locally and stuff. Now it's all like, there's so much fakery out there, because a lot of people are pretending to be from the streets and they're not, and you've got a lot of people pretending they come from like sort of harsher backgrounds, but actually they were rich and they've just had they get pocket money still in their adulthood. And but more importantly, so therefore a lot of people have disposable income to pay for views. So it's just all so distorted. Views didn't exist before MySpace. I'm pretty sure,
and like fucking like the algorithms, I don't understand who's paying for views in fucking like 2023, and I know some people are, but the thing is, like, flipping, like, views used to be the only thing that like pushed you up in the searches. So like fucking, like, I mean, like, people like Krept and Conan paid for views in the early days, but it got like their tracks noticed and they were able to do something with that. Fucking like, you could pay for fucking like 500,000 views now. Like, it's not going to get you any higher in the algorithm because you've got no engagement. And like, it's not similar enough to things that people are rocking with. So like, fucking paying for views now is ridiculous.
It's
like,
now it's literally just a stamp. It's literally just look at me. Like, look, because unfortunately, another thing that we have, I mean, so, you know, right now, like we've just been talking about views from the point of view of an artist, but from the point of view of a consumer, when you heard a track on the radio, you didn't immediately know where it was ranked. You didn't know how many plays it had or anything like that. You just knew if you liked it or not. But a lot of people listen with their eyes. They can't help but look at that number. If it's on YouTube, like, in order for them to know if they should give it the time of day, they look at how many views it's had. And
it's the thumbnail and the view count.
Yeah, and it's such a
So
weird,
for preventing the investment of one click, you're not even spending a tenner on a CD. You've just got to get your little mouse with your little finger, go click, and it's there. But you can't even get people to do that these days.
Yeah, and it's so I think that my approach has been purely for my sanity, because it's the goalposts have been moved so harshly out of our favor. But I'll never give up. Like, I'll be doing stuff till the day I die. And maybe that's a better thing. Maybe because I do so many different things, maybe I need to have been at it for 20 years before anyone notices. But then it's just like, well, I've done all of this, and I've done all of this, and I've done all of. Oh shit! I just slapped my ashtray everywhere. But yeah, so yeah, it's. I think it's a shame for like people that want to be creative coming up, but at the same time, maybe they just think that I'm talking nonsense and it's a doddle. I don't know. I'm not really.
It's just a different environment, I guess. Like, and there's people coming up now. We're just going to have to. They're just dealing with it. They've got a different set of circumstances, but they're dealing with different set of circumstances. It's the Fiverr era. You're not just competing with the other people that this artist knows who's got a camera. You're up against like some kid in Buenos Aires who pays whose rent's like $10 a week, but flipping he can make it back off an animation, you know. See, for a Twitch channel or something.
That Fiverr, man, that website is what. So once I was talking to someone about a music video. Again, it's no surprise that I don't do it anymore. Anyway, tell me why I should book you over someone from Fiverr. And I was just like, are you really asking me this? Like, it's you the end of the day, you've seen my work. If you want it, pay for it. If not, then go to them. Like, I don't care.
You're making a creative decision here, or are you just fucking like or are you just trying to get my price down?
Yeah, it's just
those are two different conversations.
Yeah, it's hard, but I think that as long as people I think the focus nowadays should be on just because things are constantly changing. We don't know what's around the corner. So just I feel like because of the platforms that we've got have all been, like I said, they've all been around for so long apart from TikTok. There's got to be something radical on the horizon that will just change everything. It'll be like it'll be like a what's it called? Not the Event Horizon. Singularity. Everything will be completely different after that.
Yeah, I mean that's probably it. Like fucking like, I don't understand TikTok. Basically, I try and throw a few things. Like I don't even look at TikTok because like the algorithm just figured me out instantly, and as soon as I open it, it's just pictures of MILF tits. But like I put videos on it. Like I make a little video on Instagram Reels, like there's a little trailer or something. I'll throw that on TikTok. I don't understand TikTok at all. And like, but I don't understand like fucking like mainstream TikTok is what I'm thinking. I reckon somewhere there's going to be a pocket of it where someone's doing something mad different that is going to expand. Because like, obviously people look for what's doing the biggest numbers now. And it's like, you know, it's some chick lip syncing and like she's got tens of millions of views and followers and shit, and then they try and give her a show, or like a TikTok comedian will try and do a comedy show and they can't act it with the crowd and that. So like the initial success of that was probably someone who's doing something like completely different with the medium, and we don't know about them yet because they've just got like some mad cult following, and we'll find and we'll eventually discover them ages ago, and fucking like kids in the street will be calling us wankers for not knowing about it fucking 5 years earlier.
I think there's a lot of that cult stuff though nowadays. I mean, you know, if you look at a like quite immediate example with Blur Records, like I'd say that I know that they do refer to themselves as being like a sort of cult, but it does quite literally have a cult following. Like people that are into that are obsessed with it, and it does that. They do pretty good numbers, and then the amount of times, like what I'm sort of leading into is the amount of times that I'll hear about some rapper and I've never heard of them before, and I'll put on a song of theirs that's apparently banging, and I've never heard it before, and I look, billions of views, and I'm like, huh? Like, and people are obviously out there quite enthusiastic about this person, and yet I'm completely insulated from it because of the algorithm. Like I'm just sort of in my own echo chamber, and lots of people are. So I'm sure there's something out there that will just completely change everything. But right now it's just, I think, just have a laugh in it. Just have a laugh.
Fucking one thing I want to like kind of like bring up before we sort of put a lid on this. Have you ever seen Mad God?
Is that the Phil Tippett thing?
Yeah.
I watched some of it with my missus, and she was a bit like, this is a bit weird, and I was like, I'll watch this on my own another time. So it's I watched a I think it was a little Vice documentary about it, literally like about 8 years ago or something like that. He's been making that film for time.
Flipping like I think he started it in like 1991 when he was working on Jurassic Park, and all the computer lads going, "Hey, it's going to be CGI soon." And he was like, and it's like, oh shit, my stop motion's getting played out. It's not going to work. So he went on, I'll do these other things, I'll do it. Still going to do stop motion though. It's going to be in my fucking garage. Like, he spent 30 years just making one film just for himself. This is me.
And I love
that's the shit I love
like that. Like, you know, it's some of my heroes are people that a lot of people will know of their stuff, but they won't necessarily know of them. Like, one of my biggest sort of idols would be like David Firth. Like, I think that he is an absolute legend, and I'm sure that he's doing all right, but I'm sure he isn't rich. And yet he's like, you know, the stuff that he's done, that he's worked so tirelessly on, has just changed the world in his own little way. And so yeah, like, I think that it's working on your passion is really the coolest thing that you can do with your life if you're able to.
Damn right, man. Fucking, like, that's an excellent kind of note to sort of wrap things up on as we come up to the hour mark. So fucking follow your passions, people, and also follow Batman LDN, follow Olzord. So you mentioned Instagram earlier. Where's the best place for people to hit you? Give me anything you want people to get eyes on.
So my YouTube would be youtube.com/Olzord, and then on Twitter I'm Batman_LDN, and on Instagram I'm Batman_LDN, and I'm pretty sure I don't have any other things. I try to keep it simple, and also I don't like Facebook or Snapchat or nothing like that. So that's easy. So yeah, that's me.
Hey, brilliant. That's ace. This has been another fantastic episode of the KSC. Fucking, like I say, I'm normally bringing through rappers or people who are like, and people like that. But sometimes I just got to bring someone on just for vibes, to fucking like show that fucking attitude to creativity that exists in all aspects. Like, because that's it. I always draw the similarity between like film and rap, and how it's all different forms of communication. So bringing you on fucking exemplifies that. So thank you for rocking up here, Batman.
Nice one. Thank you for having me. And we didn't actually talk about films, really, did we? So maybe we'll have to revisit at some point and actually talk.
Yeah, man. Definitely have you back. We'll have another one where we actually like stick to the subject matter and have films. But you know what? Like fucking, sometimes you got to let things flow. And I think talking about creativity and that, it's important, and it's good to get out there in the world, man.
Yeah,
so
nice.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
fucking big ups. KSC, safe.